I have started already live on Facebook, but I think we will wait for a couple more minutes. We're still waiting for a couple of people. Юра, можете, будь ласка, глянути на Фейсбуці, чи нормально, чи з'явилася наша картинка? Добре? Ми будемо зараз починати.
Є картинка, так що...
Окей.
Добре.
Okay, I think we should start, and a couple more people whom we are still waiting for, they will join during already the ongoing event. Good morning or good afternoon to those who will watch us later. My name is Maria Zolkin. I'm head of regional security and conflict studies at Iryna Kosse Democratic Initiatives Foundation, which is Ukrainian independent think tank. And this is our event, which we have started organizing regularly. Actually, this is another weekly discussion in our cooperation with Heinrich Böll Foundation in Kyiv. And this is dedicated to another very burning, let's say, issue of ongoing aggression against Ukraine and consequences of this aggression. So today we're going to speak about the critical moment for the Ukrainian energy system. What kind of policy options and solutions does Ukraine have right now to sustain the double challenge of winter on the one hand and Russian aggression on the other hand? Most probably, there's consequences of ongoing destruction of critical infrastructure of Ukraine is one of the most popular questions which comes to Ukrainian experts from international media. At the same time, this is something which still does not have enough coverage in let's say Western informational space. So we decided to bring Ukrainian experts. Several of them are already here, and a couple of them will join as they notified us a bit later during the event. We invited our colleague from Poland as well to have, let's say, a broad perspective on what is going on right now in terms of destruction and damages which Ukrainian critical infrastructure is facing right now. So today we're going to speak with honorable speakers. Right now we already have Iryna Kosse with us, who is senior research fellow at one of the most prominent Ukrainian think tanks, which is called Institute for Economic Research and Policy Consulting. Iryna, thank you for your agreement to participate. Already here we have our colleague from Poland, from one of the best partners of Ukraine when it comes to burning issues and the serious consequences of Russian aggression. This is Maciej Zaniewicz, who is senior analyst at Forum Energy, very famous Poland initiative and think tank tackling the energy issues. So, and we are waiting for Oleksandr Kharchenko, who is managing director at Energy Industry Research Center, who will join us a bit later after he will get the access to internet connection, and he will be able to join. So taking into regard the format, so Iryna, I would like to address first of all to you, when it comes to ongoing situation and ongoing developments in energy system of Ukraine. Someone should be muted, okay. We have muted our research director. Iryna, when it comes to the energy, to the situation in the energy system of Ukraine, so how would you describe actually the real scope of damages? I mean, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of consequences which these damages bring to, how does it influence right now for, let's say, overall resistance of Ukrainian both civil population and Ukrainian industry and economic system, and most probably, what are our perspectives to survive this winter if these attacks will go on? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I will start with the remark that the Ukrainian government currently limits the information on the results of preparation for the winter and the consequences of Russian attacks as much as possible. First of all, because of the security aspect. So for me as an expert, it's really difficult to make any predictions and to make any assessment of the current situation in the energy infrastructure. But from what we can see from the news and from the information available is that Russia is currently aiming not the power stations per se, but it's aiming the distribution system, the lines that are distributing electricity energy from power station to consumers. What it means? It means that first of all, there is big need in equipment for repairing those systems, generators, transmitters, etc. But it also means that the repairs can be done relatively quickly because it's relatively easier to repair the transmitter than to repair a big power plant. Unfortunately, since Ukraine is using Soviet legacy, a lot of equipment that is used at our power stations and those transmission stations is outdated, is of the Soviet era, and is not readily available in Europe. So we cannot ask our European partners to help us and produce the equipment that we need. So right now, as I can see, the major task before the government and the Ministry of Energy is to find to ask our European partners to look at their stock of old equipment, and possibly there is some equipment that they can spare and they can give us urgently before the winter starts, to help us cope with the destructions. Also, the information from municipalities is that they need generators and transmitters to help with the heating systems, because, for example, in Lviv, the water supply has to be, like, the water has to be pumped from outside of Lviv. Their source of water is around 50 kilometers from the city itself. So there is need to electricity to supply to those water pumps. So there are like these needs at different levels. And I think that the communication is also going on different levels. The Ministry of Energy is communicating on the need, like on the general, the national level need for big transformers and stuff like that. And municipalities on their side are also talking to their European counterparts on what help they can get with the to organize preparation for the heating season.
Iryna, if I may, the follow-up questions just for our international audience, who is the main target audience we would like to reach with these messages, for them to understand. So how actually the tackling of this issue is logistically organized? I mean, what is the connection, or how the coordination between local authorities, private companies, local communities, because Ukraine is a decentralized country and specific capacities belong to local authorities, how everything is organized right now. And when it comes to specific assistance from abroad, does it come to the central government, or they should, address private companies on the contrary, for instance? So how everything is organized?
Well, as I said, it's going simultaneously at different levels. The biggest, the major communicator from the Ukrainian part is, of course, the government and the presidential office. They are communicating on the needs of Ukraine and of different regions. But the municipalities themselves are also trying to address different organizations on the municipal level through their community, and they are also addressing businesses. So there is like simultaneous communication going on at different levels. But if you are in Europe and you can help Ukraine, the first person, the first organization that you should contact is, of course, the government of Ukraine and the presidential office.
Thank you. Thank you, Iryna. And do you, your think tank, you have been working with businesses for many, many years already. I mean, you research the business activity on different levels. So do you have any, let's say, impression or maybe even research how business who is still working and functioning in Ukraine and who are still the taxpayers of Ukrainian budget, how do they try to adapt to this situation? What are the expectations? To relocate to other regions of Ukraine, or to, continue, if they may, of course, or how business is actually trying to adapt the situation and to prepare to the winter?
Yes, you're right. My organization, the Institute for Economic Research and Policy Consulting, is conducting assessment of the business trends, and it has a survey of small and medium enterprises, different businesses in all regions of Ukraine, and we are constantly monitoring what is going on. So our research shows that business is currently very cautious about the current situation. like the trend is that they became less optimistic, but their optimism about the future is still relatively high. So they are looking forward with optimism. When you ask them, how would you assess your position in 3 months and 6 months, then they are optimistic. But when you ask them about like what is going on today and how will you feel yourself tomorrow, there is high uncertainty here. Nobody knows, because it's really difficult to predict what will happen, because Russian attacks are also unpredictable. So we can assess the situation on what with current damages, what power stations are being hit right now, but you can never say what will be the next target and how we can cope. But the electricity, the energy system is relatively resilient. It's flexible, so it's possible to level, how to say it, like to transfer energy from the regions where there is a deficit to the regions where there is some profit of energy, but it takes time, unfortunately, and it takes we need equipment for that.
And that is why, actually, as you said previously, Russia is trying to hit not only the power plants, power stations themselves, but to electricity grid, to prevent Ukraine from being able to redistribute energy if in some regions there is a profit and we would like to transfer it to another regions. So thank you, Iryna. And I would like to switch to Maciej Zaniewicz, who works for the Polish think tank Forum Energii. Maciej, I would like to ask you, honestly speaking, before the beginning of October, when Russia severely and massively started these missiles and drones attacks precisely on Ukrainian energy infrastructure facilities all around Ukraine, our partners in Europe, despite the level of, let's say, political, financial, and even military support of Ukraine, they hardly believed that the energy system of Ukraine would be so severely attacked. On the other hand, the Ukrainian government, the Ministry for Energy, and the government in general was, trying to say about this risk for many months before. And it was, for Ukrainian experts, it was more or less understandable that the closer we are to winter, the more serious this risk and this challenge will be. So how would you assess what's the understanding of the real challenges for winter time for Ukraine right now in our partners? Whether there is a different understanding between those who are closer to Ukraine and, and evaluates the risks almost as Ukraine does, I mean, Poland, Baltic states, and other partners of Poland in the European Union. How do you see how this energy crisis provoked by Russian attacks on Ukrainian facilities, how it will affect our neighboring countries, meaning Poland, first of all, in terms of some kind of energy involvement of Ukraine into energy system of, let's say, European Union. So what are your expectations, and how do you assess if it is enough that the European Union or separate member states will be just helping with equipment to Ukraine, or there are other more, let's say, efficient ways to support Ukraine to survive this winter? Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I think that there is a problem with understanding of this crisis. We were informing, we as Forum Energy, we were informing that this kind of situation can happen, but I have to admit my mistake as well, because my assumption was that the main target will be heating system. So to deprive Ukrainians from heating, because I thought that it is virtually impossible to really hit the Ukrainian stability of Ukrainian energy system, since after war, after Russian invasion, the drop in demand of electricity was about 30%. So Ukraine has had a lot of energy in reserve, like 55 gigawatts, when the maximum consumption during winter, according to our assumption, should be around 20-25 gigawatts maximum. That's why our assumption was that despite of problems with heating system, Ukraine will be able even to export electricity to European countries and earn also the money because of that. And this is, I think that it is one of the reasons that it was virtually impossible to heat only power plants to provoke crisis in Ukraine. That's why Russia decided to hit grids, which was much easier for them. I think that no one expected that this situation will be so severe. And that's why we are now acting reactively when it comes to this crisis. So we haven't been prepared for that. No one was collecting also equipment, which should be useful for Ukraine to provide Ukraine with. And that's why also it is so problematic to collect this equipment. There are, of course, initiatives to do this. This is coordinated by energy community. Also on the 1st of November, the European Union addressed this problem officially. There are countries which already sent some equipments, like Poland and Germany. But all in all, they are the 12 countries which already declared that they can and that they will help, including such, let's say, exotic countries like Israel. So it's not only help provided by the EU, but the problem is just as Iryna mentioned, that this equipment is sometimes just very different when it comes to technicalities. So it is very hard to address this problem specifically. But on the other hand, I think that people more and more are aware of the Ukrainian problems, and you can also read about this crisis in Ukraine in outlets like Politico, in Reuters. So I monitor this and I see that awareness is rising in the whole EU. But of course, there is a division between countries which are just next to Ukraine and are fully aware of the situation and monitor the situation, like Poland, which are also much more interested because they are neighbors of Ukraine. And we all know that one of the reasons why Russia decided to target Ukrainian electricity system is to provoke also humanitarian crisis in Ukraine and to provoke next wave of migrants to European countries. So the first country which will be the target of migrants will be, of course, Poland and other bordering countries. And one of the reasons, in my opinion, is just to also heat public opinions in these countries and cause some kind of tiredness of this crisis. So for how long we can take more and more migrants. I think that it's like idea of Russia, why they decided to cause this crisis. And we already see that even ministries are informing Ukrainian society that it would be advisable to spend winter in abroad. So we can see this mechanism. It works as just Russia imagined. I don't think that this kind of tiredness will be observable in countries like Poland or Lithuania, for example, but it can be caused in countries like Hungary or in Western Europe. So it can cause also divisions inside the EU, and it is again next target of Russia to cause this kind of divisions and to weaken European Union support for Ukraine. So I think that it is another element of this whole hybrid conflict which is aimed also not only against Ukraine, but against the whole EU, the whole international, let's say, order, just to destroy it. So I think that we should also look at this specific element of this specific energy crisis in Ukraine as an element of this kind of hybrid warfare and treat it accordingly. So the maximum support Ukraine just to strengthen its electricity stability, especially since Ukraine is now synchronized with European system. So in fact, it is a part of this European system. So Ukrainian electricity system stability is at the same time European stability, and we should look accordingly to this issue.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm not an energy expert, but I'm working with Russian-Ukraine conflict for many years already. And I absolutely agree that public opinion regarding the energy situation in Ukraine and in the European Union is one of crucial instruments which are used by Russia right now first of all, Russia was counting, in my opinion, on the fact that there will be the real energy crisis and that not only Ukraine, but the European Union will not survive this winter. As of now, they see that this is not true, and even most moderate, let's say, European and even especially Western European experts saying that we will survive. Our storage is full enough to go through this winter. But next winter, we will not be dependent on Russia anyway. So this is just one challenge of these 3-4 months to face, and we will survive it. But at the same time, Russia now really counts that there will be some kind of dissatisfaction with the high prices for the bills in specific countries, especially those where the cooperation with Russia, energy cooperation with Russia was pretty close. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just one thing. I think that if you look at if you look at the website of International Energy Agency, you will find also analysis about not this but the next winter season. So in fact, in the whole EU, the like ongoing discussion is not about not only about this winter, but already about the next winter, because we know that probably this crisis and this war will be ongoing also next year, and energy crisis will be deepening also in the EU. So we are already now discussing how to preserve also how to survive next winter. So I think that it's about this kind of awareness that in elites, in expert society, the awareness about the severeness of this problem is quite high, I think, and we are now looking also solutions in the long run, not only in the short run.
Thank you, Maciej. I see that another speaker we were waiting for has already joined. This is Oleksandr Kharchenko, Managing Director at Energy Industry Research Center. Oleksandr, give me a sign if you are here. And yes, that's great. We really appreciate that you find a chance to connect and join the event. Oleksandr, I would like to ask you, what are your, I'm a political scientist and I hate when I'm asked about scenarios, how the situation will go on. I say that we are not prophets, so to speak about that. But when it comes to economics or energy analysis, the whole Ukraine and the whole Europe are interested. What are the worst scenarios, and what are the scenarios which, let's say, maybe not optimistic, but let's say affordable for Ukraine for this winter? So how can you draw us at least these two extreme scenarios for the energy situation in the coming weeks, or no? And then I have another questions to you.
Okay, let's start this discussion. It's, for me, it's quite, my previous meeting was in EU representative office in Kyiv with ambassadors of EU countries with the same question. And we did that meeting with Volodymyr Kudrytsky, who is head of Ukrenergo, and we have very similar understanding of situation. I believe it's like a joint position of energy community in Ukraine now that, first of all, we have near 900 rockets and drones, which was sent especially to crush our energy system. Moscow regime attacked all our power stations, and more than 70% of our transformation substation and power grid. What they try to do? They try to isolate our generation capacity from our consumers. They try to kill transportation route between station and consumer. Because to deliver electricity, you need to change a voltage several times in transportation route. And they very precisely attacked that points. And it was planned, it's absolutely clear that all this attack planned by energy staff, it's not done by militaries. And from Soviet times, they have information about topology of our power grid and have clear understanding where we have some vulnerable place. And for any power grid in the world, vulnerable place is auto transformers. Transformers, it's a heart of substation. It's equipment which is responsible to move voltage up and down. And to produce this kind of equipment for higher voltage substation, even in peaceful time, you need from 9 months to 2 years. That it's quite complicated, very high tech. It's not many companies around the world who even able to produce this kind of equipment. That it creates for us a lot of complication, of course. And just to give some, on ground example, what's happened in Ukrainian power grid right now. We have highways and we have roads around. And all key highways attacked and bridges on them destroyed. And we have to use small roads around to deliver electricity to our consumer. And of course, we have not enough capacity to cover all needs. That's why we use the rolling blackouts, the rolling switch-offs of our consumers to save our system in general, to save our system as an operational system, operational power grid. Now, in peak, it was near 40% of power grid damaged, including all our generation capacity substation to send electricity from the power plant to the network. I could say that repair team and maintenance team working 24/7. We had some reserve of equipment, some reserve of materials, raw materials, and in a lot of cases we could repair our substation between 2-3 days and 1 month. But if transformer itself destroyed or deeply damaged, it's not possible. And in this case, we are looking for auto transformers around Europe, in US, in Canada, in South Korea, in Japan. We are looking now for this kind of equipment everywhere, especially with European countries. We are working to find some old post-Soviet equipment which already not used, but still could be used as a part-time, partially. We could use it as a reserve for our damaged equipment. And we already have several examples, including Lithuania, who provide us one transformers from their old storage, and it's extremely useful in this concrete situation today. As well, we are working both on level of government and on level of technical contacts to provide all needed information about option which could be useful to help Ukraine, to provide some lists of needs in most clear way to our partners, to give them additional option of understanding how Europe and other our partners could help us to make our power grid more stable and more resilient, especially in this concrete situation. Now I want to be back to go back to your question about possible scenarios. One scenario is optimistic. It means we have no more attack, and it means after 5-6 weeks, our consumer will not feel any problem with electricity supply. It doesn't mean that we will restore our power grid in previous condition, but it means that we will supply to our consumer enough electricity around the day. Another scenario is next wave of missile and drones, similar with previous. And in this case, we have to use our moderated rolled blackouts around the country to save the system and to save option to supply in general without any real blackouts. Because the difference between rolling blackouts and real blackouts, that the real blackouts, it's a situation when system is out of management. It's a technological disaster because a lot of equipment in this case will be damaged just because of wave of equipment switch off, which will be unmanageable, unpredictable, and will create situation when part of equipment will be deeply damaged just because of this situation, not only by the Russian hits. We believe that it's extremely low chance that we will have real blackouts. We have quite high level of resiliency. We have a lot of understanding how to mitigate results of attack, how to mitigate risks of attack. We did a lot and doing a lot together with government and local authority to defend key substation and to defend key objects in energy infrastructure in general, as well as to provide more information to local power and local authority how can make their local network more safe and more independent in this current situation, with generators, with co-generations, with different options which on national level we can provide to them to help to save their local network in some critical situations, their heat pumps, their heat boilers, their heating power stations, their water channels, their water treatment station. And it's a lot of work around the country to make this system more resilient and more sustainable right now. Sustainable, it means in kind of energy security and how to mitigate risk of additional attack. We can see some scenarios where we will have blackout. We have understanding of how it could happen. We are not sure that Russians know that scenario, and I will not present it to you, sorry. But it's possible. And on level of government and on level of presidential office already did some preparation, and now they working for some recommendation around the country what to do if this situation will happen. I think it's better to be prepared than to have this situation without preparation. But I believe that reality of real blackout, it's not more than 10%. Not more than 10%. And in case of very efficient and very massive rocket attacks. Without triple of their effort to hit us, they can't obtain this result. All other option, it could be some local hits, local problem with power grids in different regions, but it will be fixed in one day at maximum like 36 hours. We know how to do this. We have plans for many technical scenarios right now and understanding how to act quickly and effectively. But all the plans also connected now to hypothesis that we will find some additional equipment in Europe and around the world to supply our storage, because our storage is moving to empty. It's not empty yet, but 2 more waves of rocket, like 50-55 rockets, as it was in last 2 attacks, and we will be very close to empty. It's very active work right now. We are talking with all partners. We are providing information to embassies, send requests to companies, and we have a lot of discussion. And what is good, we feel support. And I believe that we will be resilient enough to not to give to Moscow regime a happiness of blackout in Ukraine.
Thank you, Oleksandr. Actually, the resilience of Ukrainian, not only in terms of repelling Russian attack generally, but the resilience of energy system of Ukraine was another big surprise about Ukraine. And here we comes not only to, let's say, technical side of the issue, like the really specific, strength in terms of technology of Ukrainian critical infrastructure facilities, which differs from already from what was built, for instance, in the last couple of decades in Europe, for instance. But it also refers this, the state of affair of kind of shock when it comes to the management. And to how Ukrainian, let's say, staff working in the energy sector responds, because this is another thing which should be underlined, that people on the ground, all these repair staff, managers, everything is coordinated, and all the damages are being tackled and repaired as soon as possible. That's another important fact which was not so understandable before this attack on Ukraine, how resilient Ukraine in fact is. Oleksandr, I have one more specific question to you, which comes most oftenly to political experts, but I think that actually the energy sector experts are the best addressees for these questions. What is going on in terms of connection or disconnection to and from Ukrainian energy system of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant? Because I think this is a kind of informational mess abroad when it comes to the pieces of news that one day the nuclear power plant is fully disconnected from Ukrainian energy system. Reserved lines are damaged. Another day there is a piece of news that connection is restored. So we understand that Russia has politicized and weaponized the factor of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and they are blackmailing us and the West. But can you, as an expert on energy issues, explain how Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant functions and what are all these connections and disconnections from Ukraine in fact mean? Thank you.
It's important really to provide some clarification, because many people have a wrong understanding what's happened there and how it moved. That technically, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station is the biggest nuclear object in Ukraine and one of the biggest in Europe. 6 reactors, 6 gigawatts capacity, a huge generation. What is important to know about any nuclear station? Nuclear station, it's an object which can supply itself by electricity. That if you switch this object from the power grid, switch off from the power grid. It can't operate itself, can't cover all needs in electricity. In the same time, to have a cooling process, which is absolutely needed for any reactors in any mode. Now we have all 6 reactors in cold mode, but they still consume electricity for cooling. It means that the Zaporizhzhia power station, near 150 megawatts capacity to cover the needs of station, which is supplied from Ukrainian power grid. We supplied it, and in general, station has 4 lines which connect Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station with Ukrainian power grid. 2 of them deeply damaged, and it's very hard to restore them because they are partly in occupied territory, and we have not enough access to that power lines. As well, 2 other power lines is an access of our maintenance teams. And each time when, because of fighting around the station, and it's a lot of fighting in the Zaporizhzhia region, a lot of missile attacks, local shells, other kind of fighting, power lines has a lot of damages and some parts of it even destroyed, and each time we sent a team who repairs this line. Because in time when the station itself is switched off from the network, it means they use generators to cover their own needs. They have a very limited now diesel reserve, and Russians not supply enough diesel, and it's of course a huge concern from all sides, including people on the station, but we can't influence them. We have no option before our militaries will deoccupy this territory, including station. And that right now, what we are doing our best to have a good supply of electricity to station to minimize the risk of technological disaster. That's the key for some special teams who work with this line and who are all time is ready to go and to maintenance this high voltage power line, which connect Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station and other part of our power grid. You said very right words about our teams, because we have many examples when Moscow regime especially waited when our maintenance team go to the object and they start sharing. We lost more than 55 people around the energy community of Ukraine and distribution and transmission system operator companies who was shooted in time of their work online to maintenance supply or to reconnect some regions or to restore some substation. And we have a lot of examples when these teams attack, but they still go into their place and they still repair the network and they're doing their best to be quick and effective.
Thank you. A small remark that in 2014-2015, when the front line was limited to areas in Donetsk and Luhansk region, those local teams back in that time, they were witnessing the same problems. And at that time, people who, some kind of local activists, even sometimes authorities or experts working on Donbas issue, we unfortunately failed to succeed to, to make these people, this staff from energy teams, to make them have some kind of status of veterans or participants of specific activities in the time of the war. So, and I hope that after the large-scale invasion of Russia, these people will receive specific status because they really deserve, and they are wounded. Some of them are killed. So it's really very not just symbolic, but this is normal to treat them as soldiers, actually, who are doing their job on the ground. We have another question from another participant who is here on the panel. Sergei Shapovalov, do you want to put it in person? If yes, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but speak a bit louder.
Yeah, I wanted to ask our experts about how technically compatible are Ukrainian and European infrastructure facilities. Are there enough spare parts that would be fitting for our infrastructure facilities? So can Ukraine, are there enough these spare parts for Ukraine to buy them or receive them as international assistance? Because as we know about the issue of weapons, for example, artillery rounds, they are not compatible between Ukrainian artillery systems and NATO systems. So we need to just replace our whole artillery with NATO one. What about infrastructure facilities? Is it possible to repair our infrastructure facilities with the spare parts from Europe? Are our infrastructure facilities made from compatible spare parts? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely understandable question. I could say that in 99% of cases it's compatible, but in one very serious case it's not compatible because auto transformers which we use in Ukraine has a voltage 750. It's a high voltage auto transformers. As well, 750, 330. Europe use 400 and 220. This is difference which creates situation when we can't use auto transformers directly from European network to take something and to establish it in our network. All other kind of equipment could be used. In case with transformers, we are looking, as I already marked, for old post-Soviet equipment, which is still available in many countries because it was replaced, but it's still on storages, or somewhere it's still in the system but not used. And we discuss with owners how we could take that kind of equipment. All other kind of equipment is compatible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Iryna or Maciej, do you want to add a comment to that or no?
Yeah, it's just, I absolutely agree. And just for example, in Poland, there is only one line with 750 voltage. It's line connection Poland with Ukraine, and it's being repaired and just to decrease its voltage to 400. So you can see.
Yeah, we agreed this, and Khmelnytsky Zheshchev now under reconstruction, and we will provide from Ukrainian side also 400, that it will be absolutely compatible with Poland system.
Thank you. And to sum up, before actually the closing the event, I have another one question, which is a bit more provocative, let's say, but maybe you will be able to highlight something on that. We all know that Ukraine has been the transporter of Russian gas and oil, and Ukraine still transports the Russian oil through the pipelines to Hungary and Slovakia. After this kind of oil was not sanctioned as a result of some kind of political compromise to put another types of sea-brought oil under the sanctions. But how do you as an expert assess the situation with this factor? I mean, we all know that Hungary might and has already had blocked specific sanctions against Russia. Russia can still hit these, let's say, facilities probably to raise or to give the arguments, for instance, to Hungary to block any other further sanctions against Russia, to say that to blame Ukrainian side for lack of safety, security. We all know that energy issues and transportation issues can be easily politicized when it comes to the usage of these factors in informational space. So, but we all see that this just part of the question. I mean, these transportation facilities of Ukraine, they are actually not discussed, at least openly. Can you elaborate a little bit? I mean, if there is some understanding how Russia can use this factor against us, or Russia will just keep aside these transportation facilities and keep them for rational reasons not touched, let's say.
Let me start with fact that the gas transportation system also still used and still transport Russian gas to Europe to cover order of our European partners. It's a very limited quantity which Gazprom supply to European clients, but Ukraine absolutely cover all our obligations in this contract, and we can propose more capacity to transport gas, but it's not needed by Gazprom, not asked by them. And I absolutely sure that if Ukraine try to move out Gazprom from European market without this superpower Gazprom support, we will never take this kind of success which we had this year. To move Gazprom from 40% of European market to 7%, and even now it's close to 5%. It's a super success, which is done by our friends from Kremlin. And I could say just a thank you to them. They cut their own money flow and very successfully. When we are talking about oil transportation, yes, it's still operational, and Ukraine as well covered all obligations which we have in face of our European partners. If any kind of case happened and any kind of attack happened from Russian side, it's not attack against Ukraine. It's attack against Hungary in this case, and how they will apply their action to Hungarian government, I don't know. But technically, it's quite complicated issue to seriously damage or destroy gas or oil long transportation route. Magistral pipes working in extremely high pressure, built in Soviet time, and design related to nuclear war and to huge potential risk of mechanical or other damages. And Ukraine do our best, and our operators do their best to have a good technical condition and not create any risks for European clients who need this oil and gas for a winter period. That Ukraine do their best to cover all obligations. What Russians will do, it's hard to predict, or even absolutely impossible to predict. But I absolutely sure that they can make something in this situation against Ukraine. They will do this against Europe.
Thank you, Oleksandr. And the last but not least, of course, questions to Iryna and Maciej. While being an expert on energy issues, would you agree that regardless of this, let's say, field of your research and work, the experts from your area should ask, first of all, of some kind of specific air defense facilities for Ukraine, firstly, and for specific financial, technical assistance from our partners, secondly?
Absolutely agree. Air defense system comes first. If we have very reliable air defense system that can destroy all those missiles aiming our infrastructure, and then we won't have any problems with the power plants. We won't have any problems with, say, logistics, all those concerns that we have now. So yes, I absolutely agree that air defense comes first, and that's what we, while talking with our European partners, that's what we stress on.
Thank you. Maciej, your word.
Yes, I can add nothing more. Just the more effective Ukrainian air defense system is, the less effective Russian attacks are. So yes, our area of expertise is energy system, but the problems with stability of Ukrainian energy systems are not just because of, I don't know, some kind of energy problems, but they are connected with war. So we have to admit it, and also advocate for more military support for Ukraine. And this is something what I talk about constantly, that Ukraine just needs more air defense systems to defense also its society, because it's not only a problem of electricity stability, but it is problem of people who will not have heating, who will not have electricity, who will not have water, running water in their houses, and will have to run not only because of the war destruction, but also because they will have no water and heating in their houses in cities. So I think, yes, it's like something basic. We have to support more also air defense systems for Ukraine.
Thank you. And to sum up, I would like to, first of all, thank you, our distinguished speakers, for finding time to connect to this event. So there will be lots of messages which we will widespread afterwards. And the main target audience will be, of course, our colleagues and broader public abroad. So it will be English. We will share, of course, this reportage and comments and everything with you. So you will be able to share it via your own channels as well. I think we have had really valuable messages from you, which are rarely coming from in such a concentrated way from Ukrainian experts on so specific issues. So thank you very much. And while being not a fan of different scenarios and prognoses, as I have already said, I still hope that the more optimistic scenario, which was drawn by Oleksandr Kharchenko, will be something we will all face this winter, instead of having the worst possible scenarios. So keep fighting on keeping, let's say, sustainable support to Ukraine in place. Thank you very much. Our event will be available online because it was live, so it will be available on our website and on our Facebook page, even after it's closed. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you for the invitation. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And keep warm.